Hey guys, I'm back. I have a guest with me.
Hi.
That's a guest with me. It's everybody's favorite little sister reviewer. She's not getting on camera because she's far away, but she's here. So we're going to do a follow-up and a closer look at the Cold Steel Tuff Lite. We got this in, wow, there's a big old bee over there. Maybe we should have done this inside. This came to us in the May Barrel and Blade box, in the IFAC box. And this was cool because I think that every first aid kit, every rescue kit should have a good little knife with it. And this is an excellent little knife to have in your rescue kit. But what I wanted to do, and I said this in that video, was I wanted to compare it because of its size and design to a couple of Kershaw knives. The Kershaw Shuffle, and I would ideally also have a Kershaw Shuffle too, but I gave them all away to my Patreon guys, so I don't have one left over yet. And the Kershaw Decoy, specifically because, you know, Wharncliffe blade and size again. And so I wanted to take a more in-depth look at this, but I also wanted to do a comparison and sort of do a head-to-head video of these. And this is the second time I'm doing this. I'm still not used to operating with an external mic, and I forgot to turn it on. It's got a power switch, and I forgot to turn it on. So I did this whole video in the shop really nicely before. And
Ethan's screaming inside.
Yeah, so now Ethan's being a shrieking banshee inside. But so very professional, very in the shop. But today it's just beautiful out, so I'm doing it outside. But we're going to do the same video. And so here we go. All right, so if you take a look at this, it is, you know, very similar size and weight to both of these knives. Now you got to keep in mind that the Shuffle 2 is a Tonto blade, so you know it's a little bit different there. But the reason I wanted to kind of compare it to these is because I have always liked the Kershaw Shuffle for size and weight and just kind of small utility value. The Decoy, we'll talk a little bit about the dubious kind of traits about the Decoy, but the Decoy because of the utility factor of the Wharncliffe blade. But I've really liked them. But here comes, you know, an offering from Cold Steel that I think might top them a little bit for a few different reasons. And I had also said in the original video, I had been thinking about getting this for a while, and I'm really glad that Barrel and Blade threw this in the box because, you know, I was sort of on the fence about trying it out. I've always had this idea about Cold Steel, you know, sort of iffy about them. And you know, this and a couple other designs have really been changing my mind about them lately. So I'm thrilled that this came to us in a box because I might not have ended up grabbing one otherwise, but you know, since I got it, I've really enjoyed it. So let's look at the details here of the Tuff Lite to begin with. So obviously we've got a lockback design. One drawback of the lockback design is that it's not always the most one-handed friendly system. It is one of the most secure locking systems, especially the way Cold Steel does it. And I brought the SR1 because if we can just illustrate some of the elements of the Cold Steel Triad lockback, because it's bigger. It's the same thing, same design, but you know, it's easier to see than in this little tiny package here, little tiny package. So if you'll notice right there, you have that little, that cutout, that semicircle, that's going to correspond to a cool locking pin there. And like I said, with the SR1, you can see it much more, you know, easily. So we've got that, we've got that. And what that does is that gives you an added safety lock when the knife is open. So not only do you have the lockback holding that open, but you have the blade actually fitting into that pin, which helps give it an extra stopping feature, you know, locking it open. And even the little tiny Tuff Lite has that too, which is really cool. Disadvantage is this is relatively hard to operate one-handed, whereas something like the SR1 with a much heavier blade is a lot easier. They also call these things finger guillotines for a reason, because if you're not careful, you can and will cut your finger on these from time to time when you don't want to do that, when you one-hand them. But once you get proficient with them, they're pretty easy to use. That used to be one of my big complaints about lockback knives is that they're not one-hand friendly. The cold steel ones are. Some of them really are. Some of them absolutely are not. Just the size and lightweight of this blade makes it a bit harder to use one-handed than some of the larger ones. So that is one element that kind of I find as a detracting factor if you compare it to the liner lock feature of something like the Shuffle. Easy one-hand operation all day long, you know. But very secure, definitely not going to close on you accidentally. Gives you lots of strength. Now we're here in soft grass, so doing the lock test isn't going to do us much good out here.
Am I looking at a piece of wood?
Nah, that's a lot of work.
Oh, it's like, I know where it is.
Yeah, it's like at least a bunch of steps that way, though. So you have a reversible clip left or right, but it is tip down only. And that's, you know, that is what it is. I prefer tip up carry. However, it's not too different from the Shuffle, which gives you left or right, but tip up only. So, I mean, you're really not losing or gaining anything. But what the Shuffle does give you is a deep carry clip. In fact, the Decoy also gives you a sort of a deep carry clip right there. But it gives you no versatility on how you mount it at all. My super wonderful, everyone's favorite channel, little sister, brought me a little bit of a 2x4 so we can do this lock test.
Oh my gosh, isn't any run out of breath?
And I just realized, you know, we don't even, I mean, a lock test with a lock back is like, you know, we can bash this all day long. You know, a lock back is not going to fail on you 99% of the time. Look, I even, if you notice with the SR1, I even did clip my finger a little bit there just to give you an idea. The Triad lock, in fact, takes it, not only does it do the lock back, it has a little bit of an angle that goes inwards. I mean, it's a very secure locking system on the knife. Even though, you know, we don't get a big difference in versatility of the clip, one way that this clip really does stand out, if you compare it to both clips, take a look at the height and the obtrusiveness of this clip compared to the Kershaw. It's hard to see, but there is a difference. You don't have as wide a clip sticking out there. So deep carry clip, but much more slimline clip. And I think it's even more noticeable with how wide this clip is and how much it sticks out versus this clip. Much slimmer clip, so you really don't feel it in your hand at all. And that's, you know, a good thing. We like that, because when you hold this knife in your hand, you don't feel the clip at all. Either of these, very comfortable. It's comfortable, but you do definitely feel it there. With the Shuffle, it's still comfortable. You feel the clip a little bit, particularly for me right in that bend. Not really uncomfortable, but you know it's there. But with the Tuff Lite, I kind of feel like I don't feel that clip hardly at all. I mean, it just blends right in. Construction on all these is really very similar. Obviously, your metal blade pivot. Here on the Shuffle, you have your metal back spacer. You have your steel liners kind of inset. You don't really have liners to speak of. You sort of have a back spacer because you have your lock bar, but nothing really inside of the plastic handles. Little bit more in depth here on the Decoy because you have your plastic back spacer, you have full steel liners, but overall similar construction for the three of them. So weights are a little bit, you know, even little higher weight here just because you do have all this metal going on. But what do you get for that metal? Well, you get a bottle opener, you get your little pry bar / screwdriver, if that's something that's important to you. You don't get the extra tools with this, but I feel like you do get, you know, a little bit, you know, more utility value that we'll talk about as we get there. When it comes to the actual material of the blade, though, that's where we have a big difference. Now here we've got AUS 8A, and on both of these we have 8 CR13. There are some people who will tell you they're just similar, they're the same, they're both offshoots of, or comparable to the 440 series. And in general terms, that may be correct. But if you really do your research and you break it down to the elements that go into it and the molecular stuff, they are not the same steel at all. AUS 8A is different from regular AUS 8 because it now has a heat treat element which changes the, anytime you apply heat to anything, it changes it, in a molecular way. But so AUS 8A, I would say better than regular AUS 8. But the AUS 8 family is different than 8CR13, even though they are both sort of in a similar stable to 440C. Your AUS 8, for lack of a better way to say it in simple terms, is more stainless than the 8CR13 family is. And if you don't believe me, you can look it up. You can look it up, the elemental stuff and the molecular whatevers. But when it comes to things like vanadium and molybdenum and all that stuff, there's just a much higher concentration of it in AUS 8, which is going to help give you that better corrosion resistance. There's less carbon, physically less carbon, and there's more carbide creating elements in 8CR13 steel. When you talk about stainless steels and corrosion resistance, AUS 8A is a better steel when you stack that up. Now, I'm not going to say right off the bat that this is a better edge retaining steel or it is less maintenance intensive, because again, a lot of that has to do with how the steel is prepared and your heat treat, or is it cryo treated and all that stuff. It has the potential to be better in those terms, but that really goes to how Kershaw is having their steel prepared and how Cold Steel is having their steel prepared. But AUS 8 does have advantages over 8CR13, and it has more potential advantages. So I would say that, if I was going to rack and stack the steel, AUS 8 is a superior material to make a blade out of than 8CR13 MOV, for sure. Looking at the actual blade shape, for just general, EDC stuff, I think sorry, not the Decoy, I think the Shuffle's a good knife. I think that it's a nice drop point shape. You've got a nice curved belly for your general tasks. That's cool. And I've always talked about the Shuffle as a good EDC type knife, especially with that deep carry clip and the other options it gives you. But when it comes to a utility working knife, I think that the Wharncliffe blade offers you just a good utility factor. Number one, it offers you a very fine point there for those very fine utility tasks. For me, great for cutting hydrographics film, or when I have to do masking or stenciling and everything. This is a great kind of knife for in the shop for me. And if you look at the design here, that jimping that goes all the way down, not only is the design of the knife and the handle really, really good, but that jimping lets me choke up and really maintain good control of that knife and get a good solid grip on it no matter what I'm doing. The Decoy also gives you some extra jimping along the spine of the blade, but not as much. And now I'm going to kind of take the comparison to the Decoy and the Tuff Lite primarily. If you look at the shape of the handle, the Decoy is comfortable. I like it. It's a comfortable knife, but it is not as well designed as the Tuff Lite. This choil here is just perfectly designed to let you get the good two-finger lock with that jimping on the spine. It's just a really, really comfortable, even though it's small in big hands, a very comfortable knife to hold. Great contours and everything. And this is good, just not as good. They take the jimping further down the blade a bit, and it's larger jimping, so your thumb really gets a hold of it. A little bit pointier, a little bit more aggressive. I feel like less utility, a little bit more rough on the thumb. The blade size rather is pretty much identical. You can see there's a difference in blade width for sure when you're talking about a good practical utility blade. I just feel like the Tuff Lite for a working knife would be a better choice for me than the Decoy. Now, I got to talk about now some of the Decoy a little bit and its title that a lot of people use as the weed knife. Because a lot of people, well, it has kind of a sour reputation for that. So the one feature that the Decoy has here are these little pincers on the end to hold. I'll tell you what, they don't work very well as tweezers. They don't. So you can judge what you think this is designed to carry, to hold on to pinch, along with its black and green color scheme and its little, I don't know, smoke bubbles or whatever they are. It does have, you know, a cool front flipper sort of feature, rubber overmold, which is nice. I think it's unfortunate that it has been branded the weed knife, and that's kind of its reputation. But it's that liner lock could use better access. It's a nice knife though for utility stuff. I like it. I just think it's eclipsed by the utility value of the Tuff Lite. You know, when it comes to being able to, in a comfortable position, get that whole Wharncliffe edge onto whatever surface you're using, it just is not as comfortable for me. My hand extends way past down the blade, whereas the design of this puts the blade in much better position with whatever surface it is, because of the design of the handle and how deep the grooves go and the choil and everything. It feels much more natural in my hand. Also notable here, I mean, just for style points and for how you like to carry, you've got a very nice wide lanyard hole there, whereas if you were to use the opening here for a lanyard hole, which is about the same size and shape, you would lose your pincers if that was something you're prone to use. So, interesting. I think they're all nice options for small carry if that's something that you're looking for. I think that there are a lot of features though in both design and materials and everything that set the Tuff Lite apart. And you know, I'm sorry now that I didn't pick it up sooner. It's just a really nice small utility EDC as well carry. A couple things I would change about it, but I actually really like this knife, and I'm really glad it was in that box and I got a chance to try it out. It's a great knife, you know, standing on its own two legs. It's also a really nice knife when compared with some of its kind of contemporaries in size and design. So now we got to go through the ratings. So starting off with originality and departure from past designs, unfortunately for this, it very much is a cold steel knife. It just looks like a cold steel knife. They love using the lock back. I mean, and they've got a great lock back design with the Triad, so you know, of course they would use it over and over. But it is a cold steel through and through, so it can't get very high marks there. Just the colors, you know, and it does come in a whole bunch of different colors, by the way, but everything about it says I'm a cold steel. So it only gets a 2.5 for departure and originality. For fit and finish on this actually is really good. There's not a lot to it to mess up fit and finish. There's a little mismatch, you know, between this plastic back spacer and the scale a little bit, but I mean, other than that, just really nicely done. I mean, perfect centering. Everything operates really nicely. All the tolerances are really good. So for fit and finish, I mean, it's going to get a 4.5. Function and mechanics, well, it operates really, really well. It is a little difficult to use that lock back single-handed, but functionally it works really, really well. Very smooth. Easy to do open one-handed. It is going to lose a whole point though, just because it can be so tricky to close one-handed, and for me, for a utility type knife, that's important. But it'll get a 4 for function and mechanics. For practicality and utility, it is a very practical knife, lightweight. It's going to lose you know, a few points because it has only the 2 positionable clip. I think they very easily could have made the clip a 4-way positionable for people that wanted that. A deep carry clip would not have been too hard to do either. And again, a little bit of work on that lock. And you know what, it might break in over time, become a little bit easier, like the SR1. But we're also dealing with a smaller, again, lighter blade. But it's also going to get a 4 for practicality and utility there as well. When we look at production and out-of-the-box standards, almost perfect. I mean, the standards on this are great. I mean, beautiful finish on the blade. I had already done the blade test in the last video, so I don't have it here. Phenomenal cut tests, and please just take my word for it on this. The pull-through was amazing. Slicing paper tests were amazing. Even had enough power in its small little package to a little bit of chopping and everything. It is a great knife. And the standards all the way through for what they give you are great. So I'm actually going to give it a 5 for production and out-of-the-box standards. For comfort and feel, it's going to get high marks there too. It's so incredibly comfortable. You don't even feel that clip there. There are a couple little sharp points here that maybe they could have worked on a little bit, and you know, that's probably coming out of the mold. You know, they might have just buffed that down. But overall, very comfortable knife, feels really good to hold. You know, you can hold this thing for hours on end and not even know you're using it. The jimping is super effective, but doesn't hurt. It's not too rough or anything. I really, really like using it. I'm gonna give it a 4.5. When it comes to cool factor though, I don't think it has much of a cool factor. It's very simple, it's very plain. I don't think it was designed with cool factor in mind either. I think it reminds me a little bit of a pill bug or something. But it's, Ethan, could you stop spanking Aunt Holly while I'm doing a video? But you know, the cool factor is, it is what it is. It's not meant to be cool, it's meant to be a utility item. I gotta give it a 2.5 when it comes to being cool. When it comes to quality materials though, we've got some good materials, not great materials. I would love to see a G10 version of this. I think that would be great, rather than, you know, something in the lines of the AD10 or the SR1. That would be awesome. AUS 8 is good steel, it's not great steel. I would buy something like this that came in like an S30V with G10. Or carbon fiber or micarta or whatever. I mean, I would invest the money in that. That would be phenomenal. Or wow, even like a Maximet. I mean, because speaking as a utility knife. But as it is, the quality of materials are good. Plenty of room to improve. They're not bad, but I'm going to give it a 3. When it comes to the value or ownership and collectability, you know, availability, I still, guys, I'm still struggling on what to call this category. So if you have suggestions, please let me know. This is the kind of thing that's widely out there. You can get your hands on it easily. It's not going to go up in value. You know, I'm not sure what the trade value of it is going to be. It's, you know, it's something you're going to get because you want to have it, not because you're investing in the future. So unfortunately, you can't get very hard marks there. I think that the value of you using it as an owner is not what we're talking about right here, unfortunately, but it's going to have to get, you know, like a 2.5 in that category right there. Very easy to get your hands on. Not so much a collection queen quality type piece. It's more of a user. And then finally, the value to price ratio though, I think it's got a very high value to price ratio. I think that this is very usable. I think that you would get a lot of use out of this. I think that this is the kind of thing that I personally am going to use in the shop all the time. I think that it's low priced enough that you can, you know, use this tackle box, glove compartment, emergency kit, bug out bag around the shop, workshop, you know, whatever you have. I think it's a great small little knife, you know, when you're introducing the young ones to knives and teaching about knife safety and taking them camping. I think it's got a very high value to price ratio. Good materials, great construction. I think it's going to last you. So I'm going to give it a 4 in that aspect. I'm pretty happy with it, you know, overall as a design, as a piece. overall it gets a 3.65 out of 5. I really like this. I haven't done ratings on the Shuffle or the Decoy, but I feel like they probably would not rate as high if I went through the whole thing, especially taking into account, comfort, quality of materials, and some of the utility factor. I definitely don't think they'd rate as high as the Tuff Lite. So, cool knife. Definitely, I think, worth investing in one. Just, for all those little tasks that could pop up. I know there are some people that would carry something like this as their primary EDC. A little small for a primary EDC knife for me, but definitely lots of other uses. I love that little snappy sound too. So, awesome. Really glad I got my hands on it. That's what I love about the box is a lot of people say, well, you don't get your money's worth, or the value's not there, or you could, take the money that you spend on boxes like, Barrel and Blade or Battle Box and just buy stuff that you like. But one of the things to me about them, and I have these debates, is that you never know when you're going to get something in the box that you wouldn't have normally spent the money on, and it turns out that you discover a product that you really, really like. And to me, that's, one of those things that there's not a monetary value for it. It's you put value on that or you don't. And I do. So really cool. So what do you guys think? Anybody have firsthand experience with the Tuff Lite that they want to share? Or want to talk about the comparison of the Tuff Lite to the Kershaw series, the small Kershaw series? Or, is there another small knife in this kind of size and range that you think it should be compared to, that you want to bring up? The floor is yours now. Well, guys, go ahead and check out all the links in the video description. I've added that to the Amazon influencer page, by the way, in all the colors I could find, because it does come in some pretty fancy colors. So check all that out. Get ready for new fun stuff coming up. We've got a whole new month of boxes and everything else going on. While you're all looking at that, please don't ever forget, always keep in mind that you are all absolutely awesome. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will be back again real soon.